Okay, in this video we are going to be reviewing pronouns, and specifically these two types of pronouns, which are object pronouns. So there's two different types. We have direct object pronouns and we have indirect object pronouns. Just a reminder, direct object pronouns, you may remember the Lady Gaga song. So we have me, te, lo, y, la, nos, os, los, y, las. Me, te, lo, y, la. Direct object pronouns. But we're not going to use os because we don't live in Spain. Then there's also the indirect object pronouns. We have me, te, le, nos, and les. Notice that the me, te, and nos are going to be the same. The difference is the le and the les. Doesn't matter if whatever you're talking about is feminine or masculine, it's always going to be le or les. Now, another type of pronoun that we have is we have the reflexive pronoun. Remember that's me, te, se, nos, and se. And remember the reflexive pronouns are things that you do to yourself. So I bathe myself, I brush my hair, I brush my teeth. We're not going to be talking about these reflexive pronouns right now. I just wanted to give you a reminder of them. But right now we're just going to be focusing on the direct object pronouns and the indirect object pronouns. Okay, so when we're talking about the direct object pronouns, generally the direct object answers who or what about the verb. So usually the direct object is gonna come in your sentence right after the verb, and it's gonna answer who or what about it. So I bring the flowers to the party. So what am I bringing? I'm bringing the flowers. So my direct object is here. If I want to replace my direct object with a pronoun, I would use the direct object pronoun. Flores is feminine and plural, so my pronoun is going to be las. And remember that your pronoun always goes before your conjugated verb. So if I wanted to replace this with a pronoun, I would say las traigo a la fiesta. So instead of saying I bring the flowers to the party, I'm saying I bring them to the party. Now, a lot of people think of direct objects as things and indirect objects as people, but they can actually be switched. So here, I bring my grandma to the party because why not? My grandma is the direct object. She comes right after the verb and she answers who or what about the verb. So, who am I bringing to the party? I'm bringing my grandma. Even though she's a person, she's still a direct object, not an indirect object. So if I wanted to trade this out with a pronoun, abuela is feminine and singular, so it's going to be la, and it has to go before my conjugated verb. So I'm going to say la traigo a la fiesta. So instead of saying I bring my grandma to the party, I'm saying I bring her to the party. So for the indirect object pronouns, this generally answers to, for, or from about the direct object pronoun. So in order to have an indirect object, technically you have to have a direct object because this has to answer a question about it. So, le digo el secreto a Pablo. I tell the secret to Pablo. So here I have my direct object. It comes right after the verb and it answers who or what. So what am I telling? I'm telling the secret. Now, to whom am I telling that secret? I'm telling it to Pablo. Now, technically in Spanish, anytime you have a something as your recipient, you have to include this indirect object pronoun. A lot of people don't do that, but technically you are supposed to. So this already has my indirect object pronoun in it, and it sounds really repetitive because technically this is saying to him, I tell the secret to Pablo. So it sounds really repetitive. It's just something that you have to do in Spanish. So since I already have my indirect object pronoun here, I actually can just take that out if I don't want to include it. So instead of saying I tell the secret to Pablo, I'm saying I tell the secret to him. Again, an indirect object pronoun doesn't necessarily have to be a person, it can be a thing. So here I'm putting more paper in the fax machine. I have my paper, which is my direct object because it answers my verb. Okay, and my indirect object pronoun is to whom or what am I giving this paper, and I'm giving it to the fax machine. So again, if I have something, I pretty much always have to include the indirect object pronoun already. So I can just take this part out if I want, and instead of saying I'm putting more paper in the fax machine, I can just say I'm putting more paper in it. Okay, a little bit of practice. If I want to say I give the toy to Dobby, here I have my direct object. It comes after the verb. It answers who or what. So what am I giving? I'm giving the toy. My indirect object answers about the direct object. So who am I giving it to? I'm giving it to Dobby. So I have my direct object, my indirect object. I could say doy el juguete a Davi. And remember that in Spanish, anytime you have a somebody, technically you have to already include the indirect object pronoun. So you have to say le doy el juguete a Davi. But I'm going to ignore this just for a second because I want this example to make sense. So doy el juguete a Davi. I give the toy to Davi. Now, the whole reason that we use the pronouns is so that we aren't repetitive. So if I already know that I'm talking about the toy, if I say, I have a toy, who am I going to give the toy to? I'm going to give the toy to Davi. I don't want to repeat the toy a bunch, so I'm just going to say, I give it to Davi. So I want to replace the toy, el juguete, with a direct object pronoun because it's the direct object. And it's singular and masculine, so my direct object pronoun is going to be lo. And remember that your pronoun has to go before your conjugated verb. So I would say lo doy a Davi. I give it to him. Now, the other way around, if I want to say I give the toy to him, so I already know that I'm talking about Davi. I'm saying Davi is sitting on the couch. I'm going to give the toy to him. And just so you know, Davi is my cat. I forget if I already said that, but he's really cute. Okay. I give the toy to him. So to him is going to be my indirect object. So I need my indirect object pronoun for him or her, which is going to be le. And remember that your pronoun has to go before the conjugated verb. So le doy el juguete. I give the toy to him. Now, if I have an infinitive or a gerund, remember that your infinitive is your fully unconjugated verb, your gerund is your ing. If I have either of those, it's going to affect where I put my pronouns. So if instead of saying I give the toy to him, I want to say I'm going to give the toy to him. So here, to him is my indirect object pronoun. And remember to say I'm going to do this, you say voy a dar. I'm going to give. Dar is an infinitive, so I can put this pronoun either all the way at the beginning or all the way at the end. So, voy a dar juguete. I could say le voy a dar el juguete. I'm going to give the toy to him, or I can say voy a darle el juguete, and I can put it all the way at the end. So for my pronouns, I can put them either all the way at the beginning or all the way at the end if I have an infinitive or an ing. I can't put it in the middle. It has to either go before or at the end. I'm going to give the toy to him. And if you're a native speaker, probably you're going to put it at the end. If you're a non-native speaker, probably you're going to put it at the beginning, but either way, it's not wrong. Okay, now a little bit more confusing part is when you have two pronouns. So you're saying, I give it to him. So it is going to be my direct object. What am I giving? And then to him is going to be my indirect object. To whom am I giving it? So remember, the indirect object pronoun has to always go before the direct object pronoun in a sentence. And if you have an indirect object pronoun that is here in the slipper and you have a direct object pronoun that is here in the slipper, you have to change this. And you have to change it to say. Because if you didn't, then you might say something like le lo voy a dar. Or le lo doy. And in Spanish, they really don't like the la sound, so you're going to have to change this to say. So if you want to say I give it to him, it is going to be my direct object pronoun. It's going to be masculine and singular because I'm still talking about the toy. To him is going to be my indirect object pronoun. It's going to be masculine and singular because I'm still talking about Davi, so it's going to be le. But remember, we can't have le and lo, so this is going to have to change to say. My indirect object pronoun has to go before my direct object pronoun. So, se, lo, doy. And then if you want to use an ing or an infinitive, so I am giving it to him, instead of saying I give it to him, I am giving it to him. I am is estoy, giving, ando or endo, estoy dando. So I'm still going to have se, and I'm still going to have lo, and I can either put those all the way at the beginning, se lo estoy dando, or I can say estoy dando se lo. I can have them all the way at the beginning or all the way at the end and attached. If I have them at the end and attached, and if I have two pronouns, okay, so I have my indirect or my direct object pronoun, my indirect object pronoun. If I have both pronouns attached, I have to put an accent. Estoy dándoselo. Okay, that should be pretty much everything. We're going to do a couple of practice things. All right, so we're going to change out these sentences using the pronouns. So, hice un favor a mis amigos. Un favor is my direct object. A mis amigos is my indirect object. So if I want to change this, un favor is masculine and singular, it's going to be lo. Mis amigos is plural, it's going to be les. But since I have both of them, remember that has to be se. They go before my verb, se, lo, hice. Nos mandó las fotos. Las fotos is my direct object. What did they send? Nos is my indirect object. It's already in the pronoun form. So he sent us the photos. If I want to say he sent them to us, this is going to be las because it's plural and feminine. So my indirect object pronoun goes first. Nos, las, mandó. And finally, te vamos a enviar un fax. Direct object, what are we sending? It's going to be a fax. And who are we going to send it to? We're going to send it to you. We already have our indirect object pronoun. Remember, that goes first. Fax is masculine and singular, so it's going to be lo. So te lo vamos a enviar. Or I can take those off. So if I take them off of the front, I can go ahead and just add them to the end. So instead of te lo vamos a enviar, I can say vamos a enviar te lo. And if I have two pronouns attached to the end, then I have to do an accent, enviártelo. Vamos a enviártelo. And that should be it. Thanks.